Welcome to Hospitality on the Rise, the podcast about the people shaping the hospitality industry and their journeys. I'm your host, Alice Chang, founder and CEO of Culinary Agents, hospitality's go-to hiring platform. And I'm here to give you your dose of virtual mentorship. Here, we'll be sharing the stories, lessons learned, and advice from hospitality leaders who've carved out their own path to success. After all, this industry is where many get their start and go on to do incredible things. Whether you're a pro, starting out, or just love the hustle, this podcast highlights what makes hospitality extraordinary: the people. We are so excited to have Ahris Kim with us today, Director of Operations at EUN Hospitality, which includes Atomix, Atoboy, NARO, events, all other things. I'm going to let Ahris talk about it. But we're here really to hear about how Ahris got started and all the amazing things that she's been working on. So, Ahris, welcome.
Thank you, Alice. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, my journey with EUN and Atoboy started with Culinary Agents, so it is truly a full circle moment.
I
still remember sending in, and that's when a long cover letter was very much a prerequisite. So writing a very thoughtful cover letter to Elia in hopes of getting my foot in the door. And so here we are, about, I think, 8.5 years or almost 9 years later. So
Wow. I love it. Believe me, I'm gonna dig deep into that because anytime Culinary Agents is part of this career growth story, I love it. It gives me chills. But how did it all start? How did you know that you wanted to be in hospitality?
I don't think I knew that hospitality was a career path, even an option, as a first generation immigrant. So I moved here in 7th grade. So I was born and raised in Korea, and firstborn daughter, the oldest daughter. I was raised to need to become a doctor, lawyer, the same old story.
Yes, I know.
And I wanted to be the best son that they never had. Very proud. And so I took all these pre-med classes in high school. I was terrible at science. I was always like an English and history gal. And in senior year, I took those MBTI personality tests that guidance counselors give you, and everything pointed towards non-medical field roles. And I signed up to all these university catalogs. And that's when I found that undergraduate studies in hotel and tourism and hospitality was actually a course that are being offered. And back then in high school, coincidentally, when looking back, my first job was selling hot dogs at a weekend fair in Wisconsin. And so hospitality was, but everyone was in service industry at one point in time, but I really enjoyed it and was really good at it. And when I was looking through the course curriculum and the potential career path graduating from my hotel and tourism management course, like, I think this is something that I could enjoy and potentially I could do. And naively, my 17-year-old self thinking, if I have a degree in hospitality, does that mean that I could travel anywhere in the world and possibly have a job? I mean, there are hotels everywhere. People have to eat. There are restaurants everywhere. And so I think I took a leap of faith. I don't think my mom was too happy about my decision to, like, hey, I don't think I want to go into the medical field anymore. There is this really exciting course called Hotel and Tourism Management. But that's how I started. I don't think I knew the extent of which that industry entailed until I went in and found myself at NYU. First time in New York as an 18-year-old. My first visit to New York City was my move-in day.
Wow.
And that's essentially how my journey officially began.
Wow. That's like a lot of change and a lot of stuff all at once. I feel like not just kind of changing what you were thinking you were going to do, but then taking the risk to move to a city like New York, which is like not like none other city, obviously. And NYU, for those who don't know, the campus is like in the city.
In the city, yeah. And I think back then, because I grew up in Seoul, but then I moved to Wisconsin. It's a very stark difference. And my mom, not speaking English well, relied on me heavily. And so I was very much, um, there was a lot of pressure in the family. And so I think when I turned 18, I had an opportunity to go as far as I can to a city that's not in Wisconsin. And so I took the chance, and I still remember, and I actually I had an opportunity to do a small commencement speech at a program at NYU when I graduated, and I talk about how I got off the airport shuttle, and the city bus goes by, and the fume, and I inhaled, and I almost felt like, oh, I think this is it. This is where I'm meant to be. It almost felt like the nostalgia of like growing up in Seoul, and I think this is like I'm an adult now and I'm independent. I'm 18, and this is the city that I'm going to start my life.
I love it. At such an early age. I mean, that's great. So now you're in it. You're in school. You're still enjoying it, I believe, because it's a very logical train of thought. By the way, going into hotel management, yes, hotels around the world. There is a lot of travel and opportunity that comes with that. So you're in school. You're still loving it, I'm assuming. And now what?
I think the NYU hotel programs, what back then was very, very small. My graduating class was about 62 classmates alongside myself. And back then, Cornell, obviously, proximity wise, was the hotel school. But what we had over the Cornell colleagues was the fact that we could intern or visit sites all year round. And so what we are doing is we're doing site visits during class hours. So we're doing back of the house tours at Le Cirque. We're meeting at the Essex House and doing the banquet room tours. We're able to intern during the school years, whereas the Cornell school students have to wait until winter break or summer break unless they're doing it at the working hotel. And so I really dove deep and fell into the concentration, which was food and beverage. And this is when hotels had very newly discovered chef partnerships. And this is a very different era now, but this is when Chef Lauren Torndell, the BLT concepts were booming in New York. And I got an opportunity to intern at the Ritz-Carlton Central Park, which back then for me was like the goal. I wanted to learn the ladies and gentlemen, treating ladies and gentlemen the way that they should, and the best hospitality training program that was known back then. And so to be admitted to the prestigious internship program at the Ritz-Carlton was my highest achievement. And so I fulfilled all of my internship hours there. And my classmates often joke that I was completely brainwashed. I became a Ritz-Carlton mania. I carried my Credo card, and I lived in this like Bushwick apartment. Back then, Bushwick wasn't even cool. Now there are natural wine bars in my block. Um, I still go by, can't believe the transformation that Bushwick is seeing. But I will travel about an hour and 15 minutes to Central Park location, this 19-year-old college student, change into my suit and pop into the lobby lounge, marble floors, beautiful paintings, live piano playing. And, Tony Bennett used to come in for afternoon tea. I'm brushing shoulders with the ladies that are living on Central Park South, and just like
Ladies to
the
lunch.
air. Yeah, totally. And just being in that mix and creating those experiences, and just seeing also what goes on behind the scenes, just so fascinating to me. And it was just like really exhilarating. And it sounds so cliche, but you feel kind of in the zone and you have this like glow moment. And I think you find the extreme sense of belonging. And that was like my first, I think, validation, like thinking, I think I'm going in that right direction. And obviously there are moments that waver because hospitality, in the meantime, my friends at NYU that are in finance, that are going pre-law, their career path, whether it's salary range or, it's like very vastly different. And but I had passion, I had joy, and I had great pride and sense of purpose. And so that kind of fueled me and my day to day. And something that I felt again when I went out to Aspen after New York, it's just like an emotional field of work. And I think your sense of accomplishments comes in not results as in, well, now with my day to day, it certainly is like revenue driven, right? It can be staff retention, it can be you achieving budget goals. But in the beginning, it's very much, changing someone's lives or guest experiences that really touch your heart, that really stick with you. And I think those are the moments when I knew, okay, I think this is where I want to be, and this is the industry that I want to continue on.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's I mean, it's powerful because I think, a lot of people in this industry, regardless of where they are in their career journey, that seems to be a common thread. And you have to love it. It has to fulfill something. Or else it's not, or else it's just not worth it. And that can be applied to any industry really, but
Hmm.
hospitality kind of hits differently because it has that extra heart in it. So New York to Aspen, like we just talked about how you inhaled,
Yeah.
gas or carbon monoxide.
And a different kind of air.
And a different high in air, and you were like, I'm home, this is for me. And now you're in Aspen, which is like the cleanest air ever. And how did take me through that transition?
Um, I did a lot of bouncing around in my 20s. And so I studied hotels and restaurants at NYU. My professors were adjunct faculty. They were in the field of New York hospitality market. The guest professors, speakers were from New York. Our visits were New York properties. Everything was centered around New York. It was my central focus. We were the creme de la creme. You can make it anywhere if you made it in New York, that kind of mentality, which is fine. But I wanted to sort of defy that. And I had a bit of commitment phobia as to where I wanted to root down. But, how do you know where to root down as a, 19, 20-year old? And when I graduated, it was 2009, and it was right after the economic recession had like begun, and it was not looking good as for the job market. And so it really opened up my eyes to, okay, I think I want to look beyond what's in New York, and I want to see. I don't think I can call myself a hospitality expert if all I know is New York. I just know the New York market. I know the consumers that are coming to New York. But if you pull me out of New York restaurants or New York hotels, I don't know if I would be a valuable asset to any company. And so back then, I had a friend who had a seasonal job at the Aspen Skiing Company. And so I just, again, had never been to Colorado, didn't even know exactly where Aspen was, just saw it on like probably tabloids, where Stars Vacation, right? Or Aspen Food and Wine. And took a job with the food and beverage department at Aspen Skiing Company. And at 23, I moved to Aspen and lived in the mountains.
Wow. That's quite a change. And actually, I mean, Aspen, if you're going to go anywhere, like Aspen is like this little haven of food and beverage, and I feel like you know, the Little Nell and a lot of these other establishments up
Hmm.
there have really kind of saw a lot of great talent come through
It's
as
very
well.
like closely connected to New York City in an odd way.
Yes, yes. And we see that more and more actually with just the businesses and people that are popping up. So you're in Aspen, you're breathing some nice clean air. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're a skier, but it's also beautiful in the spring and summer. Um,
Hmm.
and what next? I'm cheating here. I'm looking at your career timeline, and
Right.
it looks like you made your way over to Milwaukee.
Yeah. I Aspen was great. I It really taught me how to be a leader. I It was my first management role, but opportunities were limited because it is a mountain town, it's a resort town, it is very on and off season. And if you want to stay in Aspen long term, you really have to love the Aspen life. And I can ski, but I was all about building my career. And um, with limited opportunities, Aspen wasn't an ideal town for me. And I also missed being close to my family. And then they were based in the Midwest. And I also thought Milwaukee back then, and still, I mean, Top Chef Milwaukee a few years ago, I think really
Mhm.
spotlighted the city. But this was when Portland and Austin and these second tier cities were starting to boom. And I really thought Milwaukee was such a hidden gem. And I wanted to see what was going on in the hospitality scene at my hometown. And so I went home to see if there are any things that I can explore with my family within reach. And this is when um, I think, I don't know if I speak on behalf of many female hospitality professionals, but I was thinking about, okay, I think I eventually want to get married, start a family. I don't know how sustainable it is for me to close a restaurant, go home at 2 a.m. Maybe I need something that is closer to a 9 to 5, but how do I find something that way that still fulfills me? Because I do want to work with food and beverage. And so I found a catering sales role at a hotel in Milwaukee. But soon I found that I can't be behind the desk. I miss being on the floor. I miss the adrenaline. And so what I ended up doing is I had the 9 to 5, but then I found an evening part-time gig at a wine bar.
Of course.
And so I somehow had to have my plug. And so I tried that, and I thought maybe you don't have to find a traditional, like conventional way. Maybe there is a way to have a future and have a family that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be on the floor. Um, Nothing really matters if that means you have to sit behind a desk with a job that doesn't fulfill you. And I think that's what taught me in Milwaukee. And I eventually found a restaurant group, small restaurant group in Milwaukee that gave me an opening opportunity, which a lot of my mentors told me you need to partake in an opening process, which is really eye opening. Opening that's eye opening. But then I had a New York contact bring me back to New York
This
to
is
run a cooking
draws you back
school
in.
for children. Um, and so I opened this restaurant in Milwaukee, and the restaurant is about 2 months old. We're about to get reviewed by the local newspaper. And I interviewed for a role for a cooking school for kids in back in the city, which would bring me back to because and I did miss New York a lot. My all my friends were there; they're establishing their careers, and I'm always reading up on, every time I'm away from New York food scene, I always had a lot of FOMO. I still do whenever I am away. And so this was my chance, and I still remember resigning from my role, and I felt very irresponsible, and as I should. If someone gave me a resignation, now that I'm on the other side, I would be very flabbergasted, like, we just opened this restaurant and you're quitting. But I still remember my boss, he was a very wise man, and he told me, I would be lying if I were to say that I'm not disappointed, but I know that I myself wouldn't be here if I didn't take those opportunities. So I don't think I'm in any place to hold you back. So congratulations. You should go to the city that's calling you back. And so that's what brought me back to New York, and kind of 2014 I came back to New York, and essentially I never left until I did go to Oregon, 2021.
Yeah.
A lot of, sorry, it's a
East,
lot of
East Coast, West Coast, bouncing around.
Midwest. Yeah.
Midwest. And that's great. I mean, that, again, back to your original thought, is actually playing out, is that, with the set of skills that you have and that you were building and that you were acquiring, it is transferable.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest things about this industry is that, you can take that into any city, large or small, or any type of establishment, and they will recognize and value those skills right away. So, the big difference is like volume, right? Are you doing 1,000 covers a night, or are you doing, less than that, right? So that's great. And you're in New York, and New York is so lucky and happy to have you.
No, I love New York. I think, how when you're in a city, you kind of channel a different energy, and I think New York brings out the best version of me, and I had to fight it. I left New York 3 times. I also left restaurants 3 times to finally know that this is where I'm meant to be. But I'm like reading through some of the questions that, when we were thinking about what we should discuss today, some of the decisions to get me to where I am now, and granted, I still have long ways to go, is I think I was so insecure about my resume in my 20s because I looked like such a jumper. Classic, right? I never stayed at a job for more than 2 years. I was from one city to the next, one company to the other. Whereas my friends are staying at a company, they had a summer analyst job that resulted in a full-time role, and they're with the company for 3 years, and I didn't have that. And so I was always afraid to not land a job interview because of lack of longevity or tenure. But I think that added layers, and it really made me well-rounded. And I have such multitude of experiences and like anecdotal like moments that are so applicable now, because in restaurants you come across so many unexpected moments, whether it's with staff interactions or guests, or just with vendor relationships. But I think in your gut, kind of going back to what we spoke about, if it is an emotional work field of work that's passion driven, as soon as it doesn't feel right in your heart, I felt it didn't sit right with me, and it felt selfish to clock in and take away my pay if my full heart wasn't in it, to my employers as well. So as soon as I felt that, I started looking for the next job. And although I was insecure then, I feel confident in those decisions looking back. And so if anyone is staying at a job just for the sake of, although the current generation has a tendency to do even shorter.
I was going to say, things have changed.
I would say maybe give it at least 6 months.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I think, this industry is obviously very unique and very different than a lot of others. And so, hiring managers and leaders can recognize when somebody is moving for an opportunity, a learning opportunity or a specific opportunity that essentially would benefit them if they were to hire them, right? So it's slightly different than if you're, at a bank, you just move to another bank, you're doing the same thing or something slightly different. But you're absolutely right. There's a difference between a jumper, somebody who spends like a month, 2 months, 3 months at each place and are clearly just, trying to get their footing or building their resume in a unique way. Or somebody who's doing something and has reached a point where it's time for something else. And I think as we're having these conversations with these leaders, the common thread is also, having that dialogue with their management, so that there's this kind of equal understanding of, where you want to go, where you are. Can they help you, acquire those skills or give you those opportunities? And then once you reach a point where the answer is you're ready for the next thing, you have a support system that knows you and that you can lean on as you enter the next thing. And that comes with time. And some of it is, when you're starting out and you are trying to get all your experiences under your belt, you're able to take risks differently. And then you reach a point where you're like, okay, this actually feels like home.
Exactly. I think you hit it on the money.
Yeah. So you're home. You're in New York. You're home.
I mean, in a way, but I think why I found a home, not just in New York, but with Ellie and JP and where I am now is, and I hope that a lot of my team members feel the same, is that we are constantly challenged. And I say it with a little bit of laughter, and it's a bit cheeky because who wants to be constantly challenged, right? Not everyone. And so sometimes we are like, oh my gosh, we often joke and we're like half smiling and half like, oh, in pain saying this. It's like, discomfort means growth, and we love growing so much because there's a lot of discomfort we're experiencing this week. But I don't know if I want to be with a company where I'm comfortable all the time. And certainly Ellie and JP are not going to settle for that. And I love them for pushing us and their ambition and their drive. And that inspires me to inspire our team to continue to think big and keep dreaming. And although sometimes that can be really hard, but I feel like the growth trajectory that I was able to follow because of their leadership and the people that I'm able to surround myself with because of the same mindset is like immensely different, and I can attest to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will second that. I also love Ellie and JP. And Ellie and JP, I hope you're listening. No, what they have created, not just in guest experience and restaurants and all that, but in the team and culture is, nothing short of incredible. The culture can be felt even if you don't work with your team, and be it, what you see on social media or just even in the dining room. I've had the pleasure of not only enjoying dining, but also meeting and getting to know a lot of the team members, including Elia and JP, and supporting. And that really comes through also to your guest. Nowadays, people are choosing where to spend their money amongst a lot of other factors that didn't really come into play maybe 10, 20 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever. But starting out with Atoboy, which you were at, which was Ellie and JP's first restaurant here in New York City, and you were the general manager there. And then growing within an organization with a little stint in between, but again, the center of gravity bringing you back, and now you're the director of operations, right? So talk me through, you're general manager, and now you're the director of operations for multiple locations for the whole group.
Um, it's really cool to be where I am now because I remember sitting at Atoboy and Elia's favorite question to ask everyone, and everyone knows, is what is your dream? What is your big goal? And I remember one of them I said was I would someday love to oversee multiple properties. And so I'm like, be careful what you wish for. Here I am overseeing multiple properties, and I don't think we knew what that meant. Um, just as I was the very first general manager our company ever built the role, and I was the first director of operations role, and so first year and a half we were still building it together. And I think last year was the first time where we thought, okay, I think now in hospitality's director of operations role fulfills these responsibilities. And because what we try to achieve is we have so many great hospitality groups that we can benchmark, uh, but we also want to do things the way that our properties need us to, or the way that Ellie and JP like us to do. And so sometimes, like, we have myself, Shonal Falnar, who is our beverage director, and now Saori Minakawa, who is our director of people and culture. Um, and you would think that the three roles are very specific, right? I am the operations director, so restaurant operations, you know, financials, revenue, etc. Beverage director, black and white, right? Beverage operations, people, culture, HR, things of that nature. But the way that three of us work together, everything kind of intertwine, overlaps. Sometimes there are, you know, disagreements. There are some agreements and like discussions, and all towards to making the best decisions for the company. And it's not a typical organizational structure by any means, but I think that's what makes our company so unique currently. And so I think right now my goal currently is to define what it means to be a director of operations in our company, because it's starting to become clearer just now. And I think it'll continue to change and evolution. And Saori and I were just talking about this yesterday, is something that's very consistent with the ethos of our brand. That is the case with all of our restaurants. JP's cuisine philosophy, he obviously is steadfast in his personal like palate by travels, but he doesn't believe in being static. The world is changing, and so so should we. And um, we can't get them to say a firm mission statement for the company or values. But now I get it, because our mission statement for 2025 is going to be the mission statement for 2025. But for next year, we're going to have a different mission, because our goals and values will continue to evolve and expand and change. And I think that is where we are now. And so we are this very malleable, this flexible, unique, interesting company forming at this time. But I'm very fortunate to have the people that are around me. It's a really good group of people that we have. We're very, very, very grateful.
Yeah, I love it. I think, you know, at the end of the day, leaders and owners need to work with their teams to figure out what works for them, right? And that will draw in the talent and interest for people who want to work with you, and then that'll draw in the guests, the curiosity of like, what are you doing now, right? And I think that's it's a really smart and strategic approach to remain flexible, because I mean, who knows? Things change like every day. Who knows? It's like another surprise. So I can certainly appreciate that, as Culinary Agents is 13 years old, and one of our things is constantly, you know, being flexible as well, because we need to be flexible for our clients and the industry. So can definitely relate there. So I am, I want to rattle off a couple of things because I feel like we've been a little too modest with what you and the team have accomplished in the past couple of years. 2019 JBFA semifinalist, Best New Restaurant, 2019 JBFA winner, studio writers for outstanding design and 75 seats and under. And this is Atomix specifically. 2024, number 4, New York Times Best New York City Restaurants by Pete Wells. Number 2 in 2023. 2024, number 6 spot in the world's 50 best restaurants. Top spot for North America list. So, and this year, 2025, JBFA semifinalist for outstanding hospitality. And that's not including your Michelin stars you have for Atomix and Atoboy as well, right? Is Atoboy?
Atoboy
is recognized.
Gourmand.
I love
now
Atoboy.
We also have Acru, which is our newest affiliation. Our former sous chef of Atomix, he is our chef partner. And so this is a new direction for our hospitality group where it is not a Chef JP Cuisine led, but Chef Daniel Garwood. And he also is nominated for a James Beard.
Yes.
For Emerging Chef. And we're very proud of him as well.
I love it. I'm gonna double click on that for a second because I think it's also important to see, not only to say, but actually put action behind your words when you are supporting your people and you want to see them grow. This was a different project for the group, and I had I was very lucky to have dined there already, and it has the same feel of warmth and comfort and invitation, and obviously Daniel's cuisine is amazing, but it's very different than your projects, and I think that's so great, right? And that opens up a whole new chapter, I think, for everyone. I'm sure it was very thoughtful and discussed, etc. But that is a prime example of, we want to see our people grow. They're ready for the next thing. They either do it with us and we support them, or they do it on their own, which, most people will still support them, assuming that the relationship is established, but you can support them differently. And it really, really says something when you support them, like within your group. So that I was so pleased to see that. And I'm sure you all are very proud of how that project is, developing, because it's fairly new.
It is. We're very proud, and we want to continue supporting Daniel and his team, but we're also learning a lot as a supporting group because it is a very different venture. So it is a very exciting time for sure.
Well, on that note, I have quick fire questions for you. So let's take it back to you because
all right,
this is about you. Is there one thing that you'd go back and say yes to?
No, I don't think so. I think I said yes to most things.
That's great.
I think I should have said no to more things. Honestly.
You're the second person that said that.
Yeah.
It seems to have worked out for you. I think I'm actually going to change this question to, what would you say was the biggest yes in your career that changed kind of your trajectory?
I think coming back to New York from Oregon within a year. I packed up, I moved across the country, and then Elia was like, I think you want to come back? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I just moved out here, but you know what? Let's do it. And then from March to the next March, I moved, across the country back. And I think that was a great yes.
Awesome. I agree. Okay, now really your quick fire questions. What advice would you tell your younger self?
Play more.
Also a common theme there. What's your advice for someone struggling in the industry?
Don't give up, but also don't stay in a situation where you are going through too much suffering.
Okay,
Set
great.
boundaries.
Set boundaries. I like that. And last one, what's your advice for fellow hospitality leaders?
I have a lot. It's not a quick fire, but really find small joy in every day. Think outside the box, make connections, and really treasure them, nurture them, and keep them close.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ahris, for your
No,
time.
thank
It's so
you.
nice to catch up with you. I love, love, love that Culinary Agents played a small role in your
Very
career. A small, very important role. You obviously did all the hard work, but that's, those are things that drive myself and our team to continue. Those are our joys. So thank you again, and I'm so lucky to have known you for so many years and been able to be on the receiving end of all of your hospitality. So thank you again, and till next time.
Thank you.
Remember, success looks different for everyone in hospitality. No two paths are the same. If you have a leader or a topic you want to hear about, email media@culinaryagents.com. Hospitality on the Rise is brought to you by Culinary Agents, connecting top talent with employers since 2012. Whether you're hiring or looking for your next opportunity, join us at culinaryagents.com. For more inspiration, subscribe to Hospitality on the Rise and visit hospitalitycareerpaths.com, a free platform by Culinary Agents. Until next time, keep rising!